Well, howdy ho, good neighbor. It is apparent we are flying. Well, my normal spot is taken up by emergency vehicles, but we'll still get there. It is apparent we are flying high above Alameda, California. And we're heading over to the glass plant. Again. I don't know how many glass plant series I've done, but it's been quite a few. But if you look real close, today is the day. What are you talking about? Well, we've been waiting a long time for this day. Look at that. That's right. We were wondering, how are these smokestacks coming down? Well, this is how they're coming down, one piece at a time. I did not expect this, but now it makes sense. They're basically going to jackhammer these smokestacks down. So could you imagine that? They'll probably get them down to where the big heavy equipment can tear it down, but until that day, this boy, or should I reframe that, this man has started to take down 3 huge smokestacks. Now, at one time, these smokestacks were covered in plastic, so they must have gone inside and cleaned it all up from contaminants, and now it's clean enough for the guy to break it up. I'm sure it was like an old chimney. It had a whole bunch of black silica from glass, but like I said, they covered it up and went in there and decontaminated it. Easy for me to say. But there you go. You can see how far he's got. I think this was his second day. So that's how much you can get in 2 days of chipping. Bit by bit, as they say. So not only do you got to chip, you got to cut the rebar too. So that's what's left on this day. The day they started chipping the smokestacks down, this is what's left of the glass plant. And boy, was it a sight to see when I was coming home from work, to see that big crane. Yes, I never knew they made a crane that goes up that high, but it makes sense. So if you wonder how they're going to tear those smokestacks down, well, now you know. It's going to be I do believe he had I could hear it. Yeah, you can almost see the line going up. He has an air jackhammer. That's right, one of those air compressor driven jackhammers. So it's not like the ones you stand up on, it's the ones you hold, and boy, do you get a good workout, because those things are not light. And you can see that smokestack has got to be at least 6 to 8 inches thick, maybe more. And the lower you get, the thicker it gets, which makes a lot of sense. That is his job all day long, is pushing through that jackhammer, and you can't really get too big pieces, because if you get too big pieces, your jackhammer gets stuck. So I've learned that through experience when I've broken stuff apart. You gotta really take your time, and little by little, just like everything. How do you eat an elephant? A little bit at a time. You've heard that once or twice. So now you can see how thick that concrete is. And you can see him here. He's got to cut that rebar every now and again so that rebar doesn't fall. So he'll get that rebar and he'll just toss that down the hole. So there's not a lot of stuff up on his boom lift. But you can see how thick that wall is. That's probably at least 8 inches thick. And that's what he's doing all day. You imagine your arms at the end of the day doing that? You can just see them yeah, that's not easy work. You think it's just, you got to push, and like I said, you can't take too much off. So it is a delicate process, and you can see the rebar that needs to be cut out while he does it. So my hat goes off to that man. That is not an easy job to do that. I would say 7-8 hours a day, but it's probably more like 6. It takes a long time to get up there and a long time to get down, so I was just wondering how he uses the bathroom. Does he have his own little jug up there? I would probably have to have my own little jug up there so I wouldn't have to keep coming up or down, or go right down the shaft, I guess. But that's no good, because then you got to clean it up. But there you go. That's how deep that shaft goes, and it basically just falls to the bottom. So you could hear that jackhammer all the way from across the estuary. So I wouldn't want to fall down there, because there's no stopping you. And like I said, it's all cleaned out. I'm sure that was all black at one time, but that's how thick it is. I tried to see how thick it is here, and I couldn't tell. I know it's got to be at least 8 inches thick. But you wouldn't want to drop your cell phone from here, that's for sure. Well, I think that when you're up here on this, I want to say height, when you're up on this height, you really got a job to do, but you should probably stop and really recognize the history that you are deconstructing. That's right. That is history that you are taking down. People have passed that plant for years and years, and somebody actually built that smokestack, and now you're the man that's taking it down. So have a little pride in that. Unfortunately, you'll never be able to drive by and tell your kids what you did here, because it's going to be gone, but you can show them this video and say, this is what your grandpa did. That's part of the best things about doing construction, is you get to look back and say, hey, I built that building, or I installed that fire sprinkler. I'm not the only one that does that. I know that. And all construction trades look at other construction workers' work, and all construction trades always say, hey, that's the job that I did. I guess it's just in pride of doing something. But I can't get over how much rebar is in that smokestack. So you would think there'd have to be a lot of rebar in there because of the strong winds that thing has been able to take over the years. You know, the Bay Area gets very windy around here, so yeah, that was some strong smokestacks. according to the history, this glass plant was originally built in the 30s and 40s. So that smokestack could be that old. If you look at the top of the other smokestacks when you get a chance, you can see it's got a little Art Deco look to it. So I don't know. But I'll tell you what, looking at this guy on his equipment here, he really stayed busy all the time. He didn't even look at the drone, so I don't even know if he could hear me, or maybe he's listening to a podcast and has his earbuds in. I don't know. But here's where he's got to be careful. You can't really lean out of the bucket. He's trying to lean over and cut the rebar, so you can never lean out of the bucket and take the risk of falling. So if you ever work on one of those boom lifts, you must be tied off because of the chances of falling out are very high. You think you could just lean over and grab something or lean over and cut something, but that could be your last lean over, as they say. Well, that's how big that lift is. I don't know how many feet up in the air. I'm just guessing 50 foot boom lift. I don't know. That would be 5 stories, so that's more than that to me. I was never good in math, but that's taller than a 5-story building, or maybe it just looks taller because it's tall and skinny. Well, I thought I would just dedicate one whole video pretty much to this man's work. So I will finish this video here in a minute, but I just want to tell you that when you see history like this and action, it really makes for great drone shots. You know, when you got activity. So this really doesn't get boring to me because he's driving the lift right here. He's lowering it. He's doing all kinds of things, which makes for a great video. And you can't really tell him to speed it up because everything is very slow. Just like that big equipment down there, everything needs to be slow and precise because we can't have accidents, especially this high up. So when you move that equipment, you got to move it slow. So there's that Art Deco top that I was looking at. You see how that looks like 40s to me? And those big metal bands around it. Well, what happens when you cut those? At first. So that is his next project, but he started right at the end where he can get that equipment. So these are going to take a while because they got to tear all the buildings down below those other two before he can get that equipment over there to that. So this is probably a good feeler outer. They're probably saying this is a good test of how many days it'll take to tear one of these down. So I'm guessing by the speed he's going, it will take at least 10 days to tear one of these completely down to the level where the heavy equipment can come in and knock the rest down. And I do believe that's what's going to happen. He's not going to tear all that down with a jackhammer because he would be wasting his time. They're just going to get it where it's safe enough for the big equipment to come and tear the rest down. They actually have big jackhammers that go on the end of some of that big equipment. So that man We'll just have to go down probably about halfway, I would do believe. Yeah, it was kind of neat to see the big chunks fall from, I guess I want to say, that height all the way down, but there was like a little area that kept catching it right below him. You could see how there's like a little jog out that caught all the rocks down there. So, but it still was neat to see the shadows fall. Well, that's probably about enough jackhammering that I probably wanted to see today. You know, these videos can get a little long, especially when you only have one subject like this, but like I've said before, this is history in the making, so I gotta do it. Yep, definitely gonna get one last look at this guy. Right now he has the wind on his side. It was super windy this day, so that's gotta really help with not breathing all that stuff. You can see when he gets through there, you can see exactly that dust and where it goes. Look how thick it is and how thick it's getting. That's right. So after I filmed this video, believe it or not, my back was hurting and my arms were hurting just watching this man. And I was just wondering, where are the women at? They want to get some of this work, don't they? They can do this. I haven't seen any women on any of even the heavy equipment, so I just wonder if Inner City Demolition hires women. You think they could at least drive the equipment? I don't know. Well, they're somewhere, I do believe. They're probably making a contribution somewhere in the office, and you really can't have a company without good women, that's for sure. I'll say that again. You can't really have a good wife, a good life without a good wife. Yeah, everybody needs a good woman, and a good man for that matter. Just hard to come by in this world. Anybody good and anybody bad. We're all good and bad, like the yin and yang. Well, now I'm going up and down on this video, and I need to just call this one good, but I just could not get how far this guy was off the ground. Well, we'll end this video. And with the last little high look, and see this new drone, it can look up. I did not be able to do that with my old drone. I could only look to a certain height. Well, let's give this man one last look and bid him adieu. You can see how small he is compared to that smokestack there. That's right, he is just a blip on the screen. So we'll bid him adieu. And I'm going to keep coming back and giving a progress on these smokestacks and this building. Like I said, it really does make for some good drone flying to get good entertainment and good action like this. With those rocks falling and the sky blue, it was just a perfect day for knocking down a smokestack. Well, there's that pile of iron. I keep filming that pile of iron and it keeps growing and growing. So before I bring you the drone back to the ground, I want to give you one last look at the glass plant of what it looks like today. And I tell you what, inner city demolition, boy, they don't fool around. They really, you blink your eye and they will tear down a building right before your eyes. So there's the same shot that I always fly. And look at that. It's gone. The smokestack is gone. Well, look one last time because you won't see it again. Well, as always, I'd like to thank you again for coming along with me on all these glass plant demolition adventures. That's right. I know there's a lot of them, and I know they can get boring, but to me, it really gets me out of the house and gives me something to see. But you just can't see how big that plant is until it's gone. All right, well, I've rambled enough, and that's hard to do in these I want to call them demolition adventure videos. You got to come up with something to say. I guess I could just add music to them, and a lot of times I do. I will make music videos out of this same video, so you might see this video again with music on it. And that's probably better than me talking. All right, well, I've said enough, and I'll say it again. As always, I want to thank you again for coming along with me on these, let's call this glass plant demolition adventures. You know the drill. Peace, love, and all that hippie jazz. Bye-bye, everybody.